Hi everyone, Materim here with my first Ninth Age battle report in version 1.2. The guys and me are getting back into it, so hopefully this will be the first of many such battle reports. But today I'm taking on Michael. I have my Ogre Cons versus his Dwarven holds. We're doing a 4,000 point battle report. We're just going to kind of set up normal and go at each other. There's no additional victory conditions or anything like that. We're just trying to get a hold on the rules. So this is what it is. All right, to start, here on the left, Michael has a volley gun that's rune crafted. Next to that, he has the Anvil of Power, which has the rune of Shattering, the rune of Cleansing, and the rune of Resolve on it. Next to that is a big old unit of clan warriors with great weapons, full command, and the banner of speed on them. Next to that is his cannon, flame cannon with no upgrades. Then he has a unit of 20 Deep Watch with the Stalker's standard and full command. In there are all his characters, so he's kind of Death Star in it. He has a Dwarf King with the Hold Stone, Rune of Destruction, Rune of Smashing, Rune of Quickening, and a Talisman with 2 runes of shielding on it. He also has his Thane BSB with the Runic Standard of Shielding, and a Runic Smith with 3 battle runes, the Rune of Reckoning, the Rune of Resilience, and the Rune of Oaths. Then he's got a second flame cannon that is rune crafted, and his last unit down there is 30 clan warriors with full command and shields. So we're going to start my list off. I'm using the Wild Heart list, so it's pretty crazy. This is my general hiding in this forest over here. He is a mammoth hunter, and all I've got on him is the Armor of Fortune, so it's a 5-up armor, 5-up ward save. Then I have a vanguarded unit of Yetis with a champion. In the back there, I have 1 saber-toothed tiger. Then I have a unit of 8 tribesmen with my shaman, who is a master wizard with 4 spells. He is from the lore of shamanism. Then I have another mammoth hunter on the Rock. He is my BSB. Up front of that building, you can see I have 5 Noblar trappers who have vanguarded. I have another saber-toothed tiger, a giant, a frost mammoth, a unit of Tusker Cav with a standard bearer and musician, and the standard on them is the standard of discipline, so they don't panic. Then I've got a Scratapult, and then scouted up front on the far right is another unit of 5 Scrapplers, or Scrappling Trappers, rather. So we start with Dwarven holds turn 1, and again, sorry for the way this picture looks, but my phone keeps going back and forth between square pictures and rectangular pictures for some undiscerning reason. In either case, the dwarves decide they want to come mix it up, so he has the 12-inch march on these great weapon dwarves, which lets him go and hold that wall there, which is just ridiculous to think of dwarves marching 12 inches. I've really got to get used to that. You see his Deep Watch is moving up as well, though not quite as far. And the other clan warriors with the shield have moved up, so just a tail end of them are in the forest right there. So then we go up to magic, and you can see Michael is going through pages of magic. It's really crazy how much magical power these dwarves have. Bound spells right now are amazing, and he basically spent this whole game kicking my ass in magic. basically on both fronts. He was stopping me from getting mine and pretty much had a run of whatever he wanted to throw. So he ends up thinking that I'm going to hit this great weapon unit. He gets a spell on him that gives him rerolls to hit, as well as a -1 to wound them. So then we go into shooting. He turns his organ gun on my mammoth lord or my mammoth hunter and opens fire, but only gets 1 wound through. So I'm pretty okay with that. I'm thinking once I charge next turn, I'll be able to take out that organ gun with very, very little problem and just kind of go through all of his support stuff in the back with my lord there. So we go to Ogre Khan's turn 1, and I do just that. I go ahead and hit his gun with my Mammoth Hunter. I also managed to succeed a kind of long charge with the Yetis into his Anvil of Doom. Or Anvil of Power, sorry. I'm not like I know the Anvil has some ward saves, but I'm still thinking there's a lot of attacks from Yetis in there. I should be able to take that thing out too, and then I can turn everything around to look at the back of his great weapon unit, and I should be pretty okay. I also decide a long bomb charge. I think I needed an 11 for these Noblar or Scraplings, sorry, to get into his flame cannon here. I decided to go ahead and make it because I figured worst case scenario, I'm at least going to charge and get out of the way of the front of this big unit of great weapon wielders. But obviously I fail, but I do roll well enough so I get just to the other side of the wall and stop where you see me. And over here I decide just to move up the Scraplings so that they can trap this forest, so he's going to take 1 or 2 dangerous terrain tests if he tries to charge out of it. And this is pretty much whatever else I've moved. I've got my saber-toothed tigers, one coming up to kind of block things. My idea here is that if he does charge the tiger, he's going to hit that, obliterate it, and overrun into the giant with the way the angle's going. And that should leave his side open for my BSB on the Rock and the ogres to come in, my tribesmen. I'm thinking at this point just with he dropped his whole army, and I was going to try and do this kind of sweep to the side thing, and I think I just deployed wrong. I'm not sure I like the whole you can drop your whole army and essentially guarantee you go first thing, but we'll deal with that later. But the tribesmen, they're not in a good position. They're going to take several turns for me to get to anything, so I'm kind of annoyed at that at this point. And then over here, I come up just a little. I want to be able to get into an area where I can make some charges without necessarily eating the charges from him, since dwarves still have that thing where they can get the +1 to strength if they on the turn they charge. So ideally, I want to be proactive in that and not let him get me. So I don't get anything off in magic. He stops me cold, and then the shooting phase goes off. And the Scratapult shows up for work. I drop a Scratapult dead on these great weapon wielders and kill, what is that, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. Of course, they're dwarves, so they've got ridiculous leadership, so they're not going to break. But the fact that I took out a third of this unit, basically, in a single shot was amazing and makes me love my Scratapult even more than I already did. And then I completely fail in close combat. Between, what is it, D3 impact hits plus the 4 or 5 attacks, whatever, I think he's got 5 attacks. I only do 2 wounds on this gun, and so there's really nothing I can do to it. It holds, and my general is there stuck having to fight bullcrap. But at least the organ gun isn't firing at me, so that's not too bad. And then over here, my Yetis do nothing to this Anvil of Power. On the plus side, it doesn't do anything back, so we just sit here and waffle. I won by the charge, but he's unbreakable, so it doesn't matter. So we go to Dwarven holds turn 2. He decides to try the long charges. He fails both of them, which is great because that puts me right where I want to be. And he does actually lose one of his clan's dwarves to dangerous terrain coming out of the forest there. He decides not to charge anything here. I think he might have slid over just a little bit with his great weapon dwarves. I think that's what he ended up doing. And then we go into dwarf magic phase, which still sounds weird for me to say, and he dominates it. He gives his clan's dwarves the stubborn and immune to psychology spell, and then gets his deep watch with the rerolls to hit spell and the +1 to wound, or sorry, the -1 to wound them in combat spell. So that I really still, with the heavy armor and the ward saves from from the shields, I really don't want to go into that deep watch unit. So I'm going to have to try and avoid him, I think. So he goes shooting. The flame cannon ends up hitting the Noblars, or the Scraplings. It's going to take me a while to get used to these new names, I think. Ends up only killing 2 of them, and they succeed their panic check. They needed a 6 rerollable because I'm within 18 inches, and they got it on the reroll. But then the other flame cannon shoots over them and gets shoots. It can still see them. I don't know if we did the line of sight right on that, but in either case, I don't think I argued it at the point. But yeah, other flame cannon. Oh no, that's not the other flame cannon. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. All of his dwarves now have throwing axes, so they threw just a ridiculous bunch of axes at the uh, saber-toothed tiger and murder it. Then we go into combat with his Anvil of Power. I do manage to get 2 wounds through with the Yetis. He doesn't do anything back to me, so he's stuck. Then finally my Mammoth Hunter comes through and puts the last wound on his cannon and kills it. So Ogre Khan's turn 2, my Mammoth Hunter goes into the Anvil of Doom, or Anvil of Power, hoping that it can do what the Yetis have not. And then I hit a good combined charge here. I put a cat into the side, my BSB on Rock into the front, and the Giant into the front of this great weapon unit. I'm hoping to just go ahead and put some horrible destruction on them and wipe the unit out. And then over here, I get the front charge with the Tuskers and the Frost Mammoth into his Clan's Dwarfs unit, figuring that I would go ahead and just ignore his Deep Watch. My hope here is that I can hit them hard enough to destroy them or to make them break and run out of the way. Otherwise, I'm going to get this flank charge in the side of the Frost Mammoth with his Deep Watch, and there's really nothing I can do to stop that. I'll move up my Scraplings over here to start shooting at the cannon. As a side note, I really do like the change to the cannons that they don't have all like 7 toughness anymore. So that's pretty nice. And this one I move up here to do the same thing. I figure if those cannons want to take out some Scraplings, they can go ahead. Otherwise, I might be able to plink them down in wounds. And then over here, I just move up my tribesmen a little bit. Again, I'm just kind of kicking myself for the deployment. They're really not able to do much of anything here other than act as a very expensive bunker for the wizard who is also not doing anything at this point. So the dwarves hold my magic phase underwater again. I don't get any spells off, and we go into shooting. The Scraplings end up putting 1 wound on the Runed Flame Cannon here. And that was it for shooting. So we go into combat, and my Mammoth Lord does finally show up for work and destroys the Anvil of Power, and my Yetis and him reform as so. And over here, we kick butt. He doesn't actually do any wounds to anything in this combat. He misses hitting the saber-toothed tiger and can't wound my BSB on the Rock. So I delete almost the whole unit, all but one rank. He breaks, runs 9 inches, and I restrain with the giant, and the Rock and the tiger both chase and roll 8s. So he's an inch ahead of me, and I can't catch him. Over here, he actually gets 2 wounds off on the Tuskers, 1 wound off on the Frost Mammoth, but I delete pretty much half the unit. Unfortunately, because his magic was good last time, he has Stubborn. He also had Immune to Psychology, so the Terrors and the Fears didn't do anything. But either way, I'm not getting past him, which means I'm about to eat a charge from the Deep Watch right in my flank, and that's going to be a bad day. So we go to Dwarven Holds turn 3, and that's exactly what happens. I was worried about this to begin with, but I didn't realize all the stuff he had his general kitted out with. If I had known that, I don't know what I would have done, but that general, that Dwarf King is death incarnate, and it's coming for my Frost Mammoth. He also rallies these freaking 5 dudes, even though he has to make the leadership at half leadership. He rolled a 4, so yeah, stupid. It's just gonna stop me from bringing the BSB to where I need him, because I need to get rid of that unit. He gets magic off. I think he gets the same spells off again. I forgot to take a picture of it. But we go into shooting, and between the 2 flame cannons, he goes for my BSB. Each flame cannon manages to do a single wound on the BSB Rock. So he's thinning me down a little bit. Those flame cannons have to go away now. And I managed to kill, what is that, 6 of the clan's dwarves straight ahead. And then his general just opens up. He ends up, I want to say he did 9 wounds to the Frost Mammoth, because he can hit, and then each wound multiplies to a d3, and it was gross. So he hit, killed it, and overran, which slams him into the side of the Tuskers here. And yeah, it's bad. I did succeed my leadership to stay when they lost the fight, but it was a miracle. So then we go to my turn 3. I decide to charge my giant into the flank of his clan's dwarves, and the Scratapult into the flank of his Deep Watch, figuring that maybe the impact hits from the Scratapult will do something, and who knows, maybe the giant will just open up. But that's pretty much what we're looking at here. Over here, I charge my general into his next cannon because I figure the shooting is not doing it. Actually, sorry, this was a weird set of charges. First, I charged him into the 5 dwarves. He fled with them. They ran in between the 2 cannons, and then I charged with the 3 scraplings, which made them run even further, and then I charged with the other scraplings. I basically was bouncing them around. I don't remember exactly what order it happened, but this is after all the charges were done, and you see the 6 dwarves, or whatever they are, is fleeing towards the back, but I did not catch him with anything. And everything else is just kind of coming around. I really don't know where my BSB and the Yetis and this Tiger are going to get involved here, but I've got to do something because there's an awful lot of dwarves over there doing murder. So I finally get a magic phase. Yay! I had to roll 12 dice to do it. So I had 12 dice to 6 dice, and I only managed to get 2 spells off still. I ended up getting a +1 strength on the chariot, figuring the extra impact or the extra damage to the impact hits would be a good thing. And then I went ahead and did the 8-inch magical move from Pounding Drum on my BSB, figuring that I basically wanted to get an auto charge the next time I could charge if that fight was still going there. But that's all I could get by. He stopped one other. Oh, he stopped the break the spirit spell, which I tried to get on his uh, deep watch there, but he just like sick 5 dice the dispel and crushed me on numbers. And here we go. The combat here goes weird. His dwarf lord absolutely murders my tuskers, which actually breaks this combat up into 2 separate combats. Because he wasn't actually in combat with the giant. So essentially, what it was then was the Deep Watch versus the Chariot. And the Deep Watch actually did some damage, or the Chariot did some damage to the Deep Watch from the impact hits. But with the raw number of wounds that the Lord did to the Tuskers, it wasn't enough. I had a 6 leadership rerollable, failed it, broke, and he followed me. And actually, no, I did get the -1 because he had dangerous terrain here. That's where all his other guys went. So he had DT2, tried to chase down my chariot, and lost a bunch of the unit to dangerous terrain. Which then left the giant fighting the Clans Dwarves as a separate battle up top, which I won majorly. I ended up getting the swing result, so I did like 2d6 strength 6 hits to the unit, beat them senseless. They panicked, or they broke, ran, and I ran them down. So it does actually show dwarves can break in combat, which hardly ever happens. But yeah, so there's my giant after that rundown. So we go to Dwarven Hold's turn 4, and he freaking rallies with these 6 dwarves in the back again. So frustrating. But he doesn't move the other dwarves because he doesn't want to take dangerous terrain tests or anything. And he's thinking my chariot's going to run off the board. So we go straight into... I think he tried to do shooting, but shooting and magic, but this was the turn that he actually didn't accomplish anything. So we go into combat. My general finally takes out that other cannon there at the top. And then we go to Ogre's turn 4. Now I'm thinking this dwarf king he's got is basically I mean, it could probably kill my army by itself, just because of all the buffs he's got. Essentially, anytime I have toughness 5, he's swinging at strength 10, does D3 wounds. It's really gross. So I charge in the rear with my BSB and in the flank with the ogres. My hope here is that, being that he's at the rears and the flank, he's going to drop the Oathstone to essentially not have rears and flanks. Which then means that his Dwarf Lord has to accept the challenge. So I rush in, hoping that I'll challenge with my BSB, so that his Dwarf Lord has to take all those impact hits from the Rock-a-Rock. I'm figuring if I've got that, I should be able to take him down, and that's really the only hope I've got to kill this dwarf at this point. I also charge my Mammoth Hunter into these 6 dwarves, hoping that I will finally be able to kill them, and everything else comes here to put pressure on that last flame cannon. I end up doing shooting, and because I don't get anything for magic, I end up doing shooting, and finally the Noblarts take out the cannon, which is awesome. And then in combat, my Mammoth Hunter finally shows that he can kill something that he charges into, and kills the Dwarf Clansman unit to a man. And the Dwarf Lord accepts my challenge. He accepts the challenge. I hit him with, I want to say it was something like 6 or 7 impact hits, which just runs him the fuck over. So he dies there, and at that point, Michael, realizing that he can't handle it anymore, surrenders. So, victory for the Ogre Cons, with the Dwarven Hold surrendering in bottom of 4. So For my first game of Ninth Age version 1.2, it was pretty awesome. I know it's been a long time since we've been doing this. We did a test game of Ninth Age about a year ago, and that's the last time, other than one 8th edition game we played a couple weeks ago. The last time, or the last time that we broke out any of the models. So it's fun to get to play it again. I like having the opportunity to throw down some models and tear ass. There's definitely still some problems I see in uh, version 1.2. Magic is a big one, but I'm no genius for pointing that out because it seems to be the problem for everybody. It's weird to me that the difference between bound spells and casting spells is so radical. And it's I think because of their ease of having them, I don't think it's weird to say that the dwarves may be the most magically powerful army in the game right now, which is just bizarre in concept. Um, I'm okay with the shaman magic. It's not. I'm not a huge fan of it yet. We did play another game, which I have another battle report coming that I used the shaman magic again, so we'll see if that works out any better. Ogres are awesome, but ogres have always been awesome, so no real surprise there. I really like the idea of the Wild Heart build. It's very interesting to kind of have to play with stuff I normally don't play with. And the Scratapult is amazing. Um, it is catapults are just can cut through troops, and a catapult with 6x6 hitting with lethal strike is just ridiculous. But it was a good game. We both enjoyed it. I think Michael liked playing with the idea of the dwarves actually being relatively mobile for once. I know he was laughing when he did the 12-inch march with his one dwarf unit. So there's definitely going to take some getting used to because the rules are very different uh, in a lot of ways. But they're different in kind of a frustrating way because there's, other than the magic thing, not a lot of them are just worldly different. A lot of them are little tweaks on things, so it's like trying to remember that it doesn't work the way it does in 8th. Like the shields thing, giving the 4 plus at worst to hit instead of parries now was something that was throwing us little stuff like that. Also, the fact that impact hits go into challenges now in this case, that was something I don't think Michael was expecting. I don't think he realized it until he accepted the challenge, and then it was like, well, here's 9 or whatever impact hits, and your Dwarf Lord gets his ass run over. But we're getting a hold on it. I definitely think this is going to be first in a long line of new 9th edition game or 9th Age games for us. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I have at least one more that'll be up this week. I switched armies and took on Michael's dwarves again, and we'll see where that went. But hopefully you guys liked it. If you saw anything that we did wrong, anything you want to help with it rules on, or advice in terms of list building for either of us, we're certainly more than happy to welcome that. We still feel like we're babes in the woods on this new game, so any help from anybody would be more than appreciated. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we will catch you on the next one.